you stand a better chance of picking a nugget of gold on any South African streets today than you are to find a white person who says they supported apartheid. Apartheid was introduced officially in 1948, but before that, the way of governance has always been that of segregating people. Because even the 1913 Native Land Act was intended to prioritize what white people thought they wanted to what black people needed at the time. So the idea behind the 1913 Native Land Act was to take land from the majority black people and give it to a minority white community. Now, in 1948, when the nationalists came to power after vanquishing the English in elections, they decided to come up with a policy that later came to be known as apartheid. That their Prime Minister, Hendrik Verwoerd, had to admit that it might have been called by any other name, but it was actually apartheid, which meant that the fertile resources of the country were going to be controlled, owned by a minority, while the majority were going to be put into probably, we can say concentration camps similar to those ones that the English put the Afrikaners in, but maybe they will appoint indunas, leaders to lead those camps and call them Bantustans, call them homelands, put them based on their ethnic background, their languages, same like a zoo whereby you don't mix lions with elephants or leopards with zebras. Zebras in a zoo, they stay in their own enclosure, lions in their own enclosure. So the Bantustan project is going to be more like a zoo whereby birds of a feather are being flocked together, are being put together, and so white people know that when we want to feed the lions, we're bringing meat. When we want to feed the zebras, we're bringing grass and tree branches because that's what they're supposed to eat, the grass. So when we're feeding the giraffes, we are bringing the tree branches, we are bringing grass. Or lucerne, maybe they give them lucerne, nobody knows. But the whole apartheid construct was supposed to create a zoo for black people and allow the whole, those that are going to find a novelty in the whole project, those that are going, the voyeurs who are going to come to the zoo and look around to be white people, will say, oh, by the way, I'm in enclosure for zebras now. Oh, I need to give them this. Oh, I'm in enclosure for elephants. I need to give them this. I'm in enclosure for porcupines, or I'm in an enclosure for hares or for rabbits or for impalas. This is what I'm going to give them. So that was what the apartheid construct was about. Now, from 1948, unknown to many or due to ignorance, from 1948 up until 1993, the nationalist government at the time, they held elections every 5 years, 1948, 1953, 1958, 1963. They had elections. They were being elected into power. They had an parliamentary system whereby people in communities elected directly. It was a direct proportional representation. You elected directly the person who was going to represent you in parliament. You'll have a Clive W. Lewis coming from a certain constituency, because it was a constituency-based system. You'll have your Andre Streenert coming from a constituency, P.W. Botha, F.W. de Klerk, Rolf Meyer, Ernest Kriel, Louis Lagrange, Magnus Malan, all of them, they came from constituencies and they were elected directly. But what was common amongst them was that they were all elected within an apartheid construct. You had to endorse the system of governance that you're going to be elected into before you could even stand for elections. So every time when elections were coming, Magnus Malan would go and actually start campaigning. But he wouldn't say, I'm going to get rid of apartheid. He would say, no, I'm going to make sure that the black people, they are going to feel the boot of a white person harder. And by saying that, he got more and more votes. So at the end of the day, every white person who voted from 1948 until 1993, they were voting for apartheid. They were endorsing apartheid. Under apartheid, there was a compulsory military service. Every white person from 18 to 21 had to go serve in the military so that they can form the reserve force of the South African Defence Force in case they needed to go into the townships and kill black people, as I've seen them do from the past laws, when they were killing people for protesting the past laws, to when they were doing in 1976, to when they killed Biko in 1977, to when they were killing people in 1985, state of emergency. Those were recruits, people who came, white people who went into the army because they felt they needed to create the bulwark of the apartheid government. Some of them, they went to fight in Angola, suppressing the rights of the Namibians who were in SWAPO and in other organizations, killing Angolans in areas there when they were launching some of those attacks, killing Cubans, killing everyone, just being a rowdy, a rabies-infested dog that goes around. So every white person that served in that army supported the apartheid. Every white person that voted supported apartheid. Every white person who we don't know, who never joined the resistance, who we don't know. Because if you joined, we'll know you. If you were, Dennis Goldberg will know you because you were a Jew that joined, that fought against apartheid. If you were Ronnie Kasrils, will know about you. If you were Barry Gilder, will know about you because of Barry Gilder. Ruth First will know about you because they even killed Ruth First in Maputo. So the white people who joined to fight against apartheid, we know them. We know the white people who joined. Each and every white person that fought against apartheid is known. Now, apartheid was supported by the majority of those that we don't know because they were insignificant. They were just supporting a policy that had no chance of even succeeding, but they were implementing it. They were killing black people. They were denying black people opportunities. They were running a country like it was their own fiefdom. But today, you are unlikely to walk a street and find a white person who says I support apartheid. Lester said at the beginning, you are likely to find a piece of gold anywhere you walk than to find a white person. The question is, what happened to those white people who support the party? We know a fringe of them are now in AfriForum, in solidarity. They are aligning with what they're calling a white nationalist organization, civil rights movement, African civil rights movement. But where is the bulk? The ones that are not in AfriForum, the ones that are not in Freedom Front Plus, the ones that are not in Solidarity, where are they? Because that should be the bigger question for South Africans to say, where are they? Because those that were in overseas, the foreign countries that supported apartheid, the UN and other fora, we know them. The United States government, both Democratic and Republican parties, the British, both Labour and Conservative parties, the German government, both Christian Democrats, the West Germans at the time, both Christian Democrats and all the other parties, the French government, both those political parties, all of them, they support apartheid. We know the countries the whites that never support apartheid were the whites of Russia because they're also Caucasian. They're white people, they're Caucasians. But the whites of Russia, the whites of Ukraine, the whites of Kazakhstan, they didn't support apartheid. Now history has it on record that the anti-apartheid movement was supported by which countries, by which white people. We know those in England that fought in our side, those that joined the anti-apartheid movement, the global boycott movement. We know about John McEnroe, the great tennis player, former number one, that he refused to come and play an exhibition game in Johannesburg in 1981. He was a white man, American, who refused to cross the picket line to come and stage normal sports in a normal country. But my big question is, in South Africa, where are the white people that supported apartheid? Those that voted repeatedly from 1948 for white candidates who came out there and said, we are going to have a Group Errors Act, we are going to have all this act, we are going to have an Expropriation Act in 1978, we are going to have all this act, the Bantu Administration Act, the Homeland Administration. Where are those white people? Because South Africa should ask themselves that question. And let me just let you in on, it's not a secret. In 1994, some of us voted. White people have been voting before that. Any white person, not any, let me not say any, because like I said, there are white people that fought against apartheid in the arts as well. You go to Alan Kolsky, Howitz, and others who were in the arts. We know that we didn't support apartheid. In different fora, we've got different ones. White people who were 24, in 1994, who were 24 in 1994, they need to come out and explain to us. If you were 24 in 1994, come and explain to us, why did you, and you were a voter, come and explain to us, why did you vote for apartheid? Why did you just boycott the elections to make sure apartheid died sooner? So I think it's something that South Africa, if we're going to have a national dialogue, they talk about national dialogue now, that should be on the dialogue. Come out and come out and confess to say, I voted for apartheid, I believe it was good, and I believe if it came back again, it will be good, or it's not going to be good. Tell us why. Because right now, the issues that South Africans are dealing with are issues of residual supporters of apartheid who come out there masquerading as freedom fighters, as civil rights movements. So the national dialogue should be about who voted for apartheid and where are the people who voted for apartheid. We need a confession here. Like and subscribe so we can have more confessions. ASAP, a South African perspective. That's where I'm posting. And let's make the circle bigger.